It's October the 5th, and we're coming live from the Town of Babylon Town Hall. This is the Town of Babylon Planning Board, and today I want to announce that our agenda shows that we were scheduled for a work site review. That has been, is that correct? That's the agenda. I'm sorry, we're supposed to have a public hearing of Tony's Meat Palace, but that has been
that is being adjourned, Mr. Chairman, yes, for some corrections to their application.
Yes, Mr. Casey. Thank you.
You can't tell the last.
Okay. So that's been adjourned, and they'll have to post and do all of the things.
Correct, and there'll be the notice as required. And likewise, we also have B on our agenda tonight, which is being tabled while the applicant reviews the proposed resolution, which we have done and added a CNR, specifically number 17, to address their compliance with the employee parking in certain locations. So that's being reviewed by the applicant and council, and we'll bring that back when it's ready.
So we need a motion to table, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's item B, job 1839 AFD Texas Roadhouse Holdings. Motion to table, Dan.
Motion.
Second, Frank.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The resolution is tabled. Item C is
That's the same.
that's the same thing. We have to table that, or can we just skip over that?
You just leave that
Okay,
for,
we'll just leave that. All right, let's go to item D, which is architectural review. The first item is application 134847 Robbins Lane Service Center, raising an existing house.
Everything is in good order with this application, Mr. Chairman. There are no outstanding departmental comments.
Okay, so anybody have any questions? If not, we'll have a motion from Julianne,
Motion to approve.
second by Ed to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Let's go to our communications. Has everybody had the opportunity to review the communications? We received some very interesting letters. The first is from Bill Savage opposing the Gale Grace Estates modified plan, read and filed. Okay. Another letter from Margaret Braga to the planning board regarding Gale Grace Estates expressing opposition to the applicant's proposal, read and filed. Item 3 is a letter dated September 21st from Brian Sasaspa to the planning board regarding planning board job 1638AE. Flagstaff Partners requesting the third extension of time. Any comments?
and number 4 is a memo from the deputy commissioner expressing no objection to that request in 3.
Okay, well, let me ask Dan, do you have any objections to this?
Not this one.
Okay, motion by Dan to grant the third extension, second by Michael. All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Let's go to item 5. This is a letter from Jared M. Fisher to the planning board regarding job 17-18A Long Island Storage Partners requesting third extension of time.
And 6 is a memo from the commissioner regarding that request, stating no opposition to granting the extension.
Okay, Dan, your thoughts?
All good.
Okay, motion by Dan, second by Frank, all in favor to grant the additional extension. All right, so let's jump to our reserve calendar.
Minutes. Don't forget it. It was 7/11.
Yes. Okay, the first set of minutes from August 31st, 2020. Michael?
Went over them this afternoon, made all the corrections, and with Denise, and it's done.
Okay, motion, any questions? Any other comments? No. A motion by Michael, second by Ed, all in favor. Approved. The next set of minutes are from September 14th, 2020.
And the same thing that they were doing late this afternoon, I went over the corrections with Denise, so they're good.
What were some of the things you found? It's okay, you can tell me.
Trees is spelled tress.
I spelled trust.
I noticed that too.
Q is
Okay,
spelled queen.
Quick,
interesting.
more than once.
I think that's French.
That's exactly what I
Or is that we?
said. That's why I was trying to
Uh,
make it.
Motion by Michael, second by Julianne.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, let's jump over to the reserve calendar. April 16th, 2018, and May 13th, 2019, job 17068 MR Property Builders.
Same status with this application. There's still some back and forth with the applicant about potential changes to the proposal. The planning department recommends extending the record to December 7th, 2020.
Okay, we have motion to extend the record, Frank. Second, Dan. All in favor? So let's go to page 4, December 9th, 2019. Job number, item 1, job 1924 AE Conference Street Apartments.
I'm happy to report that we have resolved the traffic signal issue, and we can close the record as this matter is on the addendum for work session resolution.
Okay, any questions? Okay, motion to close the record, Ed.
Motion?
Second by Julianne.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The record is closed. Okay, let's go to March 2nd. Item 1, job 1845 EMR Property Builders.
So this one, I'm still pending the town board scheduling the public hearing for a change of zone for this one, so we cannot take any action. We also have some follow-up information. I know the board had requested some additional clarification or study on the stop sign warrant analysis that was provided for Rainbow and Albany Avenue. So I reviewed it with John Saracino, our in-house traffic engineer. And so the reason why this analysis proves that warrant or stop sign is not warranted is that it has to meet the warrant for 8 hours of any given day. So if you can look at the table, it's only hitting, while it hits the threshold for a few hours, it only hits it for 3 out of the 8 hours that they observed. So it's not hitting 8 hours in a given day, which is why the stop sign is not warranted.
So for 8 consecutive hours.
It doesn't have to be consecutive, it just has to be any 8 hours of a given day.
And what is that threshold, do you recall?
It has to be,
Over 300.
the warrant for the minor roadway, which was Rainbow Lane, has to be 200 vehicles. At Rainbow Lane in either direction, the highest flow was 36 vehicles. And for the major road, which is Albany Avenue, the warrant is 300 vehicles. And it did hit that, but only for 3 hours, where the highest was 496 vehicles, and that was between the hours of 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. But it did not hit that warrant for 8 hours during the day, which is why it's not warranted. I also had John took a look at this, and he also pulled all the crash data for that intersection. And there had only been one right-angled crash at Albany and Rainbow in a 5-year period. So those numbers don't meet those warrants. But John did look at it, and he is going to, as a traffic engineer and with our traffic safety committee, we will explore that Albany Avenue corridor as a whole from Great Neck Road to New Highway to see if there's an additional stop sign warranted in that stretch, or if there's a different area that could help the flow of traffic. But he concurs and agrees with that data, with this analysis, that a stop sign is not warranted at Rainbow based off these findings. So.
Do you have any
Good data.
questions?
I still just question the time that the date that these surveys were taken.
What were the dates?
It is like triple now, and everybody's not fully back to work.
Yeah, this was conducted on August 3rd.
So that's the summer.
Yeah, that was this summer.
Still at the peak of COVID. before things should get better. So you're going to continue to look at that and
Yeah, so-
revisit that.
So we will look at, in traffic safety, we will look at that Albany Avenue corridor. Some work has been done on the south side of that stretch near where the Bund application was recently approved. There's a new 4-way stop sign intersection installed at Harrison, Albany, and I forget the fourth leg. It's an offset four-way intersection.
Yeah,
And those new stop signs were installed and edge lines were put on the side of the road to narrow the lanes, as well as pedestrian crosswalk warning signs at the intersection with Steele. So those have been I believe, a positive improvement and have helped with that stretch south of Great Neck Road. But John recognizes that we're going to take a look at the stretch as a whole on the north side of Great Neck Road to see how we can improve traffic flows there.
but you know what was done, Matt? One stop sign was taken away near Croydon and Albany, where the school is. That sign was taken away.
Yeah, now,
And I can't believe that was taken away.
yeah, so that was at the recommendation of the traffic engineer, because if you left that stop sign there, it would have been too close, and he analyzed the traffic data and the crash data, and there's been more accidents at that offset four-way intersection. That section there at Croydon, he called the school and the school administrators there. That's not, that's a pre-K school. It's not being used for children that would really be walking on their own, because they're gonna have parents with them. And it's also only a three-leg intersection, and there's much better sight angles there. So if you leave too many stop signs, you get the opposite effect, right? Then everyone just ignores them and rolls through. So by eliminating that one and putting a more thorough four-way intersection, believes it's gonna yield more positive results.
Okay.
So,
So thank you for the research.
Thanks, man.
sure, yeah, absolutely.
We appreciate it. Okay, so what do we need to do with this?
So it's been referred to the town board. They have not scheduled a town board public hearing for the change of zone yet. So we recommend extending the record to November 16th.
Okay. A motion by Julianne,
Motion.
second by Jerry.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The record is extended. Okay, let's go to the next page. No, wait,
No, June 15th.
7-Eleven.
Well,
Oh,
yeah.
wait, we have June 15th is on the addendum.
Yeah, Dixon Gas Corp, the record was extended to 10/26. However, there were no public speakers at that hearing, and there has been no correspondence since, and we've been able to address any outstanding issues. So we need to close the record, as that's on our addendum for work
That's
session.
for July 20, right? Adjourned to today. August 20. Okay, so this is planning board 1825.
No, Dixon?
Dixon
No, it's
1829.
extended.
Oh, okay, I'm
It's-
jumping
But it's
down.
ready.
Yeah, that's listed to 10/26, but it's ready and on the addendum for
Okay.
consideration.
All right, fine, I'm
We have to
sorry.
close the record. up.
Okay, so we need to close the record. Okay, motion by Jerry
Motion.
to close the record, second by Julianne.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The record is closed.
7-Eleven.
Okay, let's go to July 13th, job 1906A, 7-Eleven closed.
So this matter, we're still waiting on revisions to be submitted by the applicant. The planning department recommends extending the record to November 16th, 2020.
Motion to extend the record, Frank? Second by Dan.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Okay, so let's go to the next page. August 3rd. By the way, what changes are they making to the 7-Eleven?
7-Eleven, the outstanding items from the departmental comments are fairly minor. I think the biggest issue is that on the parking stalls that are up against the building, on the south side of the building, they've put bollards in those parking stalls, but by doing so, the stalls are only 19 feet, so when you add a bollard, the stalls only become 18 feet in length. 7-Eleven tends to do this in certain locations, but where we've approved it, they've provided oversized stalls so that you still have a full 19-foot clear space. So we've made that comment to them for them to address, and we've also directed some additional condition language about the applicant paying for and acquiring some type of security for the site to be monitored for a certain period of time. And so we've sent that language back to them as well. So we're waiting for them to respond to those revisions. Were only requested in early September. So
Any questions? All right, let's go to the next page, page 6.
So we have to vote on the extended the record on Renzo.
Oh, I'm sorry, which one?
No, that's where we're on
On
6.
Renton, yes, I jumped back, I apologize. So
Oh.
Jump back to 711.
We're at planning board job 2021, Ramzan Holdings.
So this matter is also pending submission of revisions. We recommend extending the record to October 26, 2020.
Let's see, a motion by Julianne, second by Ed.
Second.
To extend the record. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No, the record is extended. All right, down to August 10th, planning board job 29A, 1050 Front Route 110 LLC.
We need to close the record. This matter is also on the addendum for work session resolution. This is the RBs on Route 110.
All right, we need a motion to close the record. Motion, Jared.
Motion.
Second, Frank. All in favor?
Aye.
August 31. Item 1, 1741 AF, multi-brands Copeg Real Estate.
We need to close the record. This matter is also on the addendum for work session resolution.
Okay, motion by Michael. Second by Dan. All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Item 2, job 20-09, Audilion LLC.
So my understanding from Brian is that revisions were just received recently and are currently under review. We recommend extending the record to 10/26/20.
Okay, motion to extend Dan.
Motion.
Second, Michael.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
September 21, job 1614A, Long Island Teen Challenge.
All departmental comments have been addressed. We recommend closing the record and bringing back next week for work session resolution if the board has no objections. We heard this last week. There were no public speakers. Sorry, not last week, the week prior. We had a week off.
Any questions? Motion, Julianne, second by
Motion.
Jared.
Second.
All in favor? The record is closed.
Although it still does not read the way what they're gonna do. This still talks about the existing building and the addition. And when I asked them about that, because they showed a picture of one brand new building, she said they're gonna knock down the existing converted garage that is now office space and build one brand new building. It's still right.
Yeah, this was probably just copied over from the original
original, yeah.
agenda, but I can make sure that's addressed in there. I believe Brian probably addressed that in the memorandum because I know Brian was here last week.
Right, yeah. Okay.
But I'll relay that message over to him to just double check the description of the project.
Okay. Next item is planning board job 2006, AE, Latano, Pinello.
All departmental comments have been addressed on this matter. I know we had a number of people speak at the public hearing, some for, many against. And there are some further communications on the addendum. But the planning department recommends extending the record to 10/26/20.
Questions? No? Okay, motion, Michael, second, Ed.
Okay.
The record is extended. The addendum?
Yes, sir.
Work session, site plan review, excavation job 1924 AE, Conference Street Partners.
Sorry, this was just the matter I said earlier. We had addressed the traffic signal issue. So the applicant has agreed to the changes proposed and will make a contribution to upgrade that traffic signal accordingly. And all other departmental comments have been addressed.
Okay, so what's the action?
We move to B, the negative declaration.
All right.
Mr. Grow?
Yep, the secret determination is ready to go.
So let's go to the negative declaration. This is job 1924 AE, Conference Street Partners. We need a motion to approve the resolution declaring a negative declaration. Motion, Frank. Second, Ed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Okay, the next one is
Yes, and the resolution for that is in good order, sir.
So again, that's job 1924A, Concord Street Partners. Motion by Ed,
Motion?
second by Michael.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The site plan is approved. Let's go to item D. Work session site plan review. Job 1741 AF, multi-brands, Copeg, real estate.
That, Mr. Chairman, you should move to E, the negative declaration for this site plan bar restaurant.
So let's move to item E. Again, job 1741 AF, multi-brands, Copeg, real estate. We need a motion to approve the negative declaration. A motion by Juliet,
Motion.
second by Jerry.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item F is to approve the site plan for job 1741 AF, multi-brands, Copeg, real estate.
The resolution is ready, Mr. Chairman.
So the resolution is in order. Motion by Michael, second by Ed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Item G is the Scrivener's error for the resolution.
That was just a correction of the date of the hearing on the resolution.
All right, and let me see, I don't see it in front of me, but what is the appropriate,
It was listed, I believe, as the 17th, and it should be the 31st.
should be, okay. Motion by Dan, correct the Scrivener's error, second by Frank. All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Item H, work session, site plan review, job 1929 AF, 1050 Front Route 110 LLC.
That record was closed earlier. We can move to review and vote on the neg deck first in E, and then the site plan resolution is ready in F.
Okay. Item I is,
Yeah, we're okay on this one, the type 2 action.
Okay,
okay.
that's right, no neg decks.
All right, so, good, so now we're approving the site plan. A motion by Jerry,
Motion.
second by Juliet,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Again, that's planning board job 1929. Item J, site plan review, job 1926 AM, Dixon Gas Co.
If all departmental comments have been addressed, there was that one nagging issue of a minor engineering detail that has been reviewed and is adequate and corrected accordingly. And it is a type 2 action. So there's no negative declaration. I think we can move to item K.
Okay. So let's move to item K, which is to approve the site plan, job 1829 AM, Dixon Gas Corp. Any questions? Anybody? Everything's in order?
The resolution is in order. The minutes will be amended to reflect that it's a site plan, gas station, and convenience store, which is what we normally list on the agenda.
Right. Good. So motion by Ed,
Motion?
second by Michael, all in favor.
Aye.
Before we get to the communications, something struck me as I've been driving around Dublin, which is that all of these approvals, whether it be gas stations or take you down an old restaurant and replacing it with a Starbucks or something, it's really greatly improved. I mean, we're in this terrific period of redevelopment, some of those areas of our town that go back to the 50s and 60s. And we had that conversation with the residents who were here concerned about the apartments, the additional apartments that are approved in Copeg. But that is also an area that had been terribly neglected and ignored, and frankly, no investment, and investments going in there. So I don't know how we better communicate, what our objectives are here, whether it's my role as a planning board. I don't want to be necessarily engaging, but I think how we communicate and how the town communicates that all of these investments are happening for a variety of different reasons, not the least of which is that the town is welcoming those investments and helping to facilitate those plans as they come forward so that they could be the best that they could be. But it's been a big improvement in
Yeah.
terms of the beauty of certain parts of our town.
Yeah, I'm afraid that would turn into a debate in this.
I know, I'm not gonna get into it. The other thought I had recently, actually yesterday morning, was, is it appropriate for our attorney, when we're talking, and we're having a public hearing on a site plan, or to explain to people, here's what the planning board is looking at. You know, you're coming in here with a whole list of, well, I don't want to be negative, but the town board is responsible for changing the zone if it's going from, one zone to another. The zoning board is the one that is going to look at a site plan, and if they need some relief from the requirements, they go there. And our job is to see if it all fits together and it's consistent with the community or what the town's plans are for that area.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's not inappropriate for me or a board member to express, the breadth of the application and what the review process involves, whether it's site plan, building location, traffic, parking, other review that is done to safeguard, the community is always appropriate, okay? This board should, take notice of what the Mr. Chairman said, that with all these applications, you end up being a steward,
Right.
perhaps, or a gatekeeper. What Mr. Grow in the environmental department does when these applications come, whether they're heard or adjourned for revisions or tabled for other things, you end up facilitating the redevelopment of the town, the improvement of the town, and also it picks up problems, whether it's with a site plan, environmental contamination. I was going to say something like this when we meet in 2 weeks, when we go to the training at the wash plant, because, these things come before us and they go through a rigorous review that we don't always see tonight by the planning department and environmental. And it's an upgrade to facilities all the time. So it is appropriate to lay that out without having to get into other areas of the town board's approval or zoning board variance, which are dimension-related relief. So, yes.
Okay, so what do the board members think about taking that time? I mean, I don't know how they do this in other towns where, in other towns, I know we put it on the applicant to present their application. Do other towns, the staff present the application and then, I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
I'm not positive.
No?
No.
I mean, I don't mean present the application, here's what we're looking at,
Yeah.
It was done years ago.
I'm sorry.
It was done here years ago,
This has come up,
where the planner, presented the application.
this has come up in the past too, with other applications that we've had where people, maybe are opposed and, we get a lot of commentary that maybe is not pertinent to the scope of this
Right.
board.
Thank you.
And I did work on some language about what the scope of the review and the process is. I don't know if it ever made it here, but we could maybe, re-explore that
Yeah,
with the
I mean,
commissioner
that's
and maybe make it
really-
a,
That's also part of my asking the question. How do we get people to focus their comments to the extent that that's possible without, look, people come, they make, the way I think about this is, people don't come to these meetings all the time. They come when it's something directly affecting them. And they should be heard. And unless it's somebody going on, I know they go on sometimes longer than they should and make the same point over and over again. But at least by explaining the parameters, okay, here's what we are looking at. If you can, please focus your comments on these parameters, because anything else you say, we will listen respectfully, but it is not relevant to our deliberations.
That's needed, especially since we're always stuck, having to give them a small civic lesson. Like, we're not that bored, and so it's.
But we never say that.
I do at the end of the meeting.
Right.
Well, I know, it is, no, not really, I don't say that typically.
Well, no, but I
But
think, no,
go ahead, Joe.
I think an introduction to the public at the
Right.
beginning of the meeting, and I think this is what you were just saying, that the scope of this board is the following. And if someone starts to debate with us or bring up issues that we have they accuse us of doing all kinds of crazy
Right.
things and wrong things. And it's not in our jurisdiction or in the scope of what we do. And I think when people start saying, you approved, you let them build 16 units there, we did not.
Right.
And I think if diplomatically, it can be, I mean, if there's an introduction or an overview in the beginning, of this is the scope of our board, and these are the responsibilities. This is stuff we're going to be looking at tonight and responding to. And when they go offline, they say, let me just remind you that we had nothing to do with that. Go to the town board meetings, go to the other meetings. That's not in our jurisdiction. I can't guarantee that it's going to squash
No.
all of it, but
It's just an-
it gets.
But a little-
Yeah.
One thing you don't want to come out and be limiting of the public. This is, even though this is not an open session, we're only hearing an application. We're not like a town board with something open. And we're limited to site plan review and whatever else is before us. You don't want to limit the public statements up front because it comes across sometimes as being restrictive or being an advocate, which we're impartial. So focusing them is certainly something that is a goal, but it has to be handled, I think, on a case-by-case basis, you know, with the site review or whatever we have before us. And when we have highly sensitive applications, we have had times where the commissioner will come.
Right.
And it's not inappropriate for some further review, but we have a planning staff that is very good at setting us up for the hearing. So, but in other towns, there are certain jurisdictions that have a commissioner say what the application is, but that's the way that they handle that. This is handled with a very competent planning staff, so.
No, I agree with that.
I just want to say something. I think that would be good to emphasize the site plan review process and how the drainage is being upgraded.
Right.
The site's being looked at in terms of circulation, solid waste, you know, the dumpster enclosures, stuff like that. And then as Rich mentioned earlier,
That's in the
most
scope
of these
what we
sites
do.
are getting remediated by coming in. We're seeing tanks
Yes.
being removed, you know, that sort of thing. So I think that you might want to, you know, include that in your emphasis if you make a little discussion.
I think part of it too, and something that we're pushing more of is having these applicants meet with the public beforehand, reach out, do their own community outreach. So that's something we can push. But I also think it's a fair point to, you know, like I said, it's something we worked on. I don't know if it ever made it this way, but some type of spiel, like we read in that script about how we rely on the testimony, and if it's inaccurate, you know, we revoke your approval.
Right.
Give a similar 1 to 2 paragraph, just brief explanation of what the scope of this board is. It could be helpful as well, even if it's something that gets recorded and just played at the start of every hearing. I think that's a fair point. It gets a little, you know, obviously it's probably hasn't been done because this board is a little bit complicated, right? That, you know, it comes here, then we might go to town board, then it might go to ZBA, but just the general spiel of, you know, what we're looking at, you know, what our purview and scope is, and then maybe, like you said, a point that many of these sites are being upgraded to the town's latest standards, which means, you know,
Which makes
a
big
more
difference.
rigorous. These are old
you know,
redevelopment sites.
you have to be mindful, you know, a lot of this town was developed prior to the zoning code going into effect, so it's
I'm thinking back to the apartments where they had, you know, the restaurant, the bar, you know, whatever version it was at any given place. There was no parking. No parking.
Well, and stormwater, you know, we get at least
Stormwater
once a
runoff.
week, I have a site where stormwater is coming off of the property into the public roadway because there's virtually no drainage on these old industrial areas. When it, you know, site comes in for redevelopment, you're putting
Gotta
in
hold in
drainage,
water.
you're upgrading the site, so stormwater is contained on site, so.
You know, I think back to, you know, the paint factory that people in the community are concerned about. Obviously, they were not good neighbors. But the fact of the matter is that industrial building, been there a long time, and residential followed it. I mean, if something like that came before the planning board today, it just wouldn't happen. That would not, you would not have that type of use being backed up against residential like it was. So to the extent that we could, impose standards on the applicant to clean the place, put higher fences, do all of those things to be a better neighbor. I mean, the hearing what people had to say facilitated that. And make
But
those.
that was a real
Make
site
those
plan.
requirements a condition.
That was a site plan review. That was
Yeah,
within
that
the
was a site
scope
plan
of the
review,
stuff that we
correct.
do, and you guys did a great job of it.
You did a very good job, but that feedback is important, and technically it may not be part of our mission, but we do want to know, what's going on there and beyond our own inspections. Okay. Anything else, Matt, you want to say?
Oh, no, even, that, Jim Mark differ with the chairman, but there have been times when you have had to instruct some people in the audience. For instance, a few weeks ago, the guy who wanted you to get involved in the process of natural selection vis-a-vis capitalism in terms of his 7-Eleven being postal one by, and they want that. And then also the whole thing with Copay, we're pretty, I think we'd all probably agree that the downtown revitalization situation, they seem to be a locus for a lot of the tension and a lot of the aggravation right now. The Copay people seem to be up in arms about things, more than just about any other communities from what I can see, unless I'm just doing this ersatz sort of,
No, it's basically because they have a huge parking and problem in
Traffic.
Copac. It's huge. And there seems to be no answer for it.
but that's just my own thoughts.
No, well, that certainly, people are coming out. And the character of things, that frankly people didn't think much about is changing. They're thinking about it now, in part because, the town board has approved this downtown revitalization of more density and all the things that go along with that. But you're also, getting, in my opinion, major improvements in what, as opposed to what was there.
Well, what we don't hear is Copeg Hamlet is like a little village.
Yes,
We don't hear the Amityville stuff because they have the
Yeah.
reports. We don't hear the Lindenhurst Village stuff. I can tell you without question, the residents in Amityville Village and Lindenhurst Village are not happy with a lot of the large apartment complexes going up and some of the individual projects that have gone around. But to your point, they've all been a good thing. And I think having our boards and they have their boards, they've got a different view of what some of the residents are complaining about because we have a different, bigger picture.
so people were concerned about how many apartments do you need? And it's just part of that panel that I was on, that was the Toro panel last week. The county is looking to put together a model code for the towns and villages to consider for how you redevelop these shopping malls and put apartments there. Because retail is not coming back. It's just not. In my daytime job, I do represent some major mall developers down in the town of Avalon. But Simon and they're taking a J.C. Penney's at Roosevelt Field. They're going to turn that into a warehouse, a last mile warehouse. Think about that.
That's good.
And then, on the other hand, we've got the Great South Bay Shopping Center and what can be done there in the old, whatever it was across the street. I'm thinking back, it used to be the Times Square store.
Kmart.
Yeah.
Pergamon,
Kmart,
Yeah,
it's a Pergamon there.
yeah,
National Wholesale Liquidators.
yeah, all those things,
It's been
and they're
decades
really
now.
marginal.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I know that if somebody comes in with an interesting application, this town will seriously consider it and figuring out how do you do that. As I told the people in that group, I said, at least as far as these large developers who are saying they're making these changes all across the country, they want to know that you have an overlay district like we have in Copeg, and that you have some, conditions and a path that you can follow as opposed to coming in with something that you hope so the people in the town will understand. So at least they've thought through what that all means, like in Copac. So so now with the investment is following. But I don't know whether the staff is thinking about, are the parking requirements sufficient on, these more densely,
Yeah, it's definitely things we're looking at,
especially
even the
especially
Copac.
post-COVID, because not that many people are going to be commuting into the city as before.
Yeah, it's definitely something we're looking at, some of our codes, particularly COPEG and if there are changes necessary to facilitate, more cohesive development. So it is something that's being looked at in the planning department. A lot of these applications that we're seeing aren't technically in downtown COPEG.
Right.
There's some education I think that needs to be had, people are bringing applications, this is America, it's capitalism. They're bringing things that they think are going to make money. Everyone wants a mom and pop restaurant next door, Italian cafe. Nobody's opening up a new Italian cafe in 2020 in the middle of COVID. So there's a balance
Nobody's
of,
going to the movie theaters. They're
Yeah.
shutting them all down.
so that's part of it, right?
Yeah.
People are building things that they think will be
Right.
successful, but our job is to balance that out as well. So, and I think we do a good job of, when these applications come in, making sure that we're upgrading stormwater and refuse and
Yeah, I agree.
trying to provide buffers. But there's always more we can be doing and looking at. So, we'll continue to do so in planning.
Question, you had mentioned the parking,
Yeah.
but also, which I know is not part of our scope, but the traffic flow, going back to what you said about COPEG. The traffic flow in COPEG is awful. It's just awful. And what's happening, and they've said it at some of the meetings, is people go either through Lindenhurst or through Amityville to get into COPEG because you can't go north and south through any of the streets in COPEG.
Right.
You just can't.
Just can't.
Going back to Tanner Park and the fact that 10 years ago, there was no movie night outside and this and that, and creating all that traffic flow that now you get.
Yeah.
And they're right, making the right or the left coming out by that corner over there is impossible.
Anyone Avenue needed a traffic light before Gene Eagleson.
Correct.
He's not gonna add enough traffic into that intersection
Yeah,
all at the same time.
right.
So they're entitled to a traffic light, that's dangerous.
Good thing. And, but the traffic flow in general, going down Great Neck Road and everything else, I don't know that there's ever been a comprehensive study done of the whole road, the way they opened up 110, which they opened up the other day to create more room for people to walk, a little bit. But I don't know that everything that is done, I know it's not in our scope, but I'm just saying, that's part of the biggest thing you hear at every single meeting is, I can't make a right turn, it takes me an hour to get through COPEG, and they're not wrong.
Yeah.
And again, it's outside of our jurisdiction, I think, but something that has to be looked at some point.
No, it's outside of our jurisdiction, but we are here to get feedback from people and share it with the staff and with the town board and others.
I can definitely relay this message back to the planning department because, it's tough because each individual project may not trigger based alone, but we have to start looking at the comprehensive and maybe there is a need for more
Cumulative.
overall look and cumulative effect on these issues. So we can definitely bring that back to the planning department.
We certainly have to, traffic is within our review purview. So, but as Matt mentioned, one of the problems here is we have small individual applications with traffic studies and whatnot, and those have to stand on their own merit, those applications and the impact that they have. It doesn't mean that the overall master plan of the town or other code revisions, should not be considered. And, we've seen this year or last year, there were a couple of revisions that changed the parking requirements for apartments, whether it was 1, 2, 3 bedrooms. It went from 1 car or 1.5 cars to 1.5 or 2. So it's an ongoing process. And as, the growing occurs and the world we live in changes, things will evolve. It's a lagging, indicator. And I'm sure the town board is reviewing, the development as they move forward.
Yeah, because I'm sure they're hearing the same feedback from the public when they take up applications for rezoning.
And just, keep in mind, when you get a project, the planning board, and Ed remembers Tanger,
Oh, yeah.
that project was so big that we did a generic EIS, and we branched out, and the traffic study went into Islip, it went into Huntington, and we looked at that whole network, and there was some pretty significant upgrades, not just on Grand Boulevard, but actually on Deer Park Avenue. There was some improvements there. So that's when you step out, and then you get to look at, the entire area when you get a big project like that.
But we don't have a project anywhere near that size.
Not right now, but pretty soon you might.
There are some shopping centers. Hopefully-
I know of one.
Shopping centers that are continuing to degrade, and there's others that are experiencing resurgences, like the one around the corner from my house with LA Fitness now has opened the second time. And so that's going up. You saw what we did, what we approved with the big box store and Aldi and Planet Fitness. That's a terrific improvement. There's Leslie, the one with that old, where Angie Bakery is continuing to degrade, and I don't know what's gonna happen to those poor people that own that place, because I wonder if that shopping center is gonna.
Well, I think that's the dialysis center
Yeah.
going in there. They're working on it now.
Yeah,
They are in there working.
and that's important to the shopping center. And so we're seeing it move from, they may not all move to residential, but they're moving to medical
Yeah.
and fitness centers, although who knows when fitness centers are gonna be reopening again.
Well, LA Fitness is open
They're open.
again.
No, I know, but they're just.
But not yet,
on a
limited.
commercial basis. All right, look, I apologize, this is just some things that I've been
That was a
thinking
good
about.
conversation.
And I figured since we rushed through the agenda so quickly, I'd just take a couple of minutes to talk about it. So in terms of takeaways, if you want to work on some language that I could read into at the beginning of our hearings,
Yep, definitely.
here's what we do, and here's our mandate. Okay, so let's get back, we have to finish item I, or is that L? Communication. Okay, we have a letter from the West family objecting to planning board job 2006. Read and filed. Another letter dated September 30th from Kristen McKay regarding Frontier Park, requesting an extension of time. And then a memo from the Commissioner of Planning stating no objection to granting additional time. So do we need a motion to grant additional time?
Yes.
For item 2, for number 2.
Okay, so a motion by Julianne.
I abstain.
Second.
I abstain.
Okay, you abstain. Okay, motion by Ed,
Motion?
second by Michael.
Second.
To grant the extension of time. All in favor?
Aye.
Approved with one abstention. All right, what else?
No hearing next week, Columbus weekend, and then the training the following day. I think we're convening here at 1:30 on 2 weeks from
Correct.
The 19th.
tonight.
The 19th of October.
Yep,
1:30, I believe.
1:30, we have everything in place, we got buses set up, we've got the room reserved, and we're ready to go. Yes.
No, that should. I
Yeah, the
figured
first, the
Michael
first bus is gonna leave promptly at 1:30, and we're gonna have half the folks here for the class, the first class, and then vice versa, that class will go up to Basilico, to the wash plant, and then the other class will come back. Then the other class comes back from Basilico, and then we all convene together as a group. Because we could only have 6 people go on the tour at a time, that's why we had to break it up.
How's the dress code for there?
I would just wear, just-
No boots.
yeah, I wouldn't be dressed up. Yeah,
No high heels.
yeah, no high, yeah. Yeah, there's some stairs to go up with grates, so I would, dress casually.
Okay. Anything else? Joanne,
Thank you.
any motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn at 7:50.
7:50. Second by Dan, all in favor, the meeting is adjourned.